Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jazz Talk, my favorite section of the show, where I interview local jazz musicians. This week we have Brett. Brett, how are you doing today?
Good.
I'm doing very good. So first of all, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you play, and stuff like that.
Yeah, my name's Bret Ramirez. I'm a musician. I'm studying composition here at the museum. I play piano. I accompany some students in the vocal studio, but I also play a lot of jazz gigs around town.
Awesome. Yeah. How long have you been playing the piano for?
Oh man. Well, I took little baby lessons around 5. Didn't take them super seriously though until like around high school when I started to teach myself.
Okay.
And then I didn't really get to jazz until later into high school and starting in college. Really is when I
I see. I see.
started picking. Yeah.
What made you so attracted to the genre of jazz?
Um. Well, I think the first jazz I listened to was a lot of vocal jazz, big band like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald. I like those old crooners. I liked the rhythm and these crazy crunchy harmonies that you can hear in much popular music these days. But then when I started actually playing jazz, what's most fun about getting to participate is the improvisation and the fact that you are getting to express ideas and just come up with whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's so much freedom in in getting to express yourself and playing with other musicians.
I see, yeah. So I know you said you got into jazz during high school and college, but how did you find out about jazz? Like, what made you, when did you see it and want to get interested into it?
Right. Well, I think I really liked Frank Sinatra's voice.
I see.
And then I really liked Ella Fitzgerald's voice. And slowly I started to realize that there was also instrumental jazz. And I think the turning point would have had to be my freshman year of college. I started my degree at Texas Tech in Lubbock. And my piano professor, Dr. Hoagland, he would sit me down every week and just have the biggest smile on his face and say, "Hey, Brett, how you doing? How about we sit down here and we listen to a few things?" And he'd play me a few tunes. And he was just so energized and passionate about this music and really imbued in me like a sense of a passion and just a love for this kind of music. I especially in terms of bebop and instrumental jazz, I think it takes a little bit more. It takes a little more. You have to want to get into it.
I see, yeah.
As opposed to vocal jazz, which catches your ear because we're used to listening to pieces and we're used to hearing 3-minute pop songs. But to hear somebody on a saxophone wail for 5 minutes, you kind of have to build up to that. And I think the community in Lubbock, some friends that I had, and especially Dr. Hoagland, they were really the ones that made me go, "Wow, this is really cool."
Yeah, I see. How differently do you think when you're playing jazz compared to when you're playing in another like orchestra or a different ensemble setting?
Right. So like I said, I took some music lessons as a little kid, so I knew how to read music. And then I was in band and choir in high school. But my real start with playing piano was learning rock songs, like I see when Billy Joel, and learning a lot of stuff by ear, in fact, which I think prepared me a lot for jazz because so much of it is it's far less structured and specific in terms of how you have to play this note at this time. So I was very lucky to kind of be able to go between both worlds. It served me well in my short career so far. I think whenever I'm playing jazz, it's a lot more of an intuitive thing, especially when I'm playing tunes that I'm familiar with and I don't have to read music. I like to close my eyes and hear something in my head and then see how faithfully I can reproduce that with my instrument as their hands. And the other really very different thing about jazz that has still really helped me in my classical career is listening, because in jazz we're always communicating with other musicians. I think half my ideas whenever I'm improvising come from something that I hear in the drums, maybe a rhythm, or maybe something in the shape of the bass line inspires me to push and pull here. And especially one of my favorite things in jazz is comping for other musicians. I really love comping for horns because it kind of lets me let go of myself for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm focused on how can I make this person sound good and make their solo really shine the brightest. And that's helped me a lot now that I'm starting to accompany a lot of musicians in the classical world, because I'm mostly focused on listening to them and trying to elevate what somebody else is doing, which helps me to there's this sense of like egolessness, like I'm just fading away, and I just know exactly what needs to happen. And I think that's really one of the coolest parts about jazz, and one of the things that very much differentiates it from classical music and even rock music and pop music, where there's still a lot more structure.
I see now. That's awesome. Yeah. What are some of your favorite jazz artists, and why are they your favorites?
Right. Oh man. Some of my favorite jazz pianists are Bill Evans, Herbie Hancock. I mean, I really like Bill Evans' tone. His ideas are always so clean, and so they feel so personal and meaningful. Herbie Hancock, I love the way that he comps. I love his blues language. I love the way he interacts with other musicians. He's a huge influence on the way that I try to accompany people. And he's also a great soloist.
Yeah.
I really love Chet Baker. I love his trumpet tone. I love his vocal tone, and I just love the soul that he puts into his music. And I think probably my favorite jazz artist would be Wayne Shorter, the tenor saxophonist. He's a composer. One of the things that's interesting to me about Wayne compared to other musicians of his time and place is he's not like a very technical player. You can kind of hear a lot of mistakes. Or there's fewer really intricate lines maybe compared to Coltrane or Lee Morgan, or but you hear a lot more of his personality and character considered music, and I like how he's following ideas as opposed to playing very strictly within the kind of bounds of ordinary bebop that we might hear. And also just his tunes are magnificent. I really love Infant Eyes. I love this whole album, Night Dreamer, and Speaking of Evil. That he just writes some beautiful tunes that bring together blues and modern bebop. He's just a wonder. Yeah. So Wayne Shorter, that's my guy.
Awesome. Yeah. What are some of your favorite styles of jazz that you like to listen to or even play?
Right. I mean, I really like hard bop. With a lot of what Wayne did with the Jazz Messengers, Art Blakey. Really hard swinging. It evokes some of the same emotions as like punk rock or some really heavy classical music like Rachmaninoff or something. It's heavy swinging, really integrates the blues. There's so much character and soul in it, and at the same time you get to hear all these really interesting, colorful harmonies and intricate bebop lines that they're bringing out of the earlier bebop era. So hard bop would definitely be up there. I really like Brazilian music.
Yeah.
All sorts of Brazilian music. I mean, Jobim, and I really like the composer Arthur Barakay. He has some really cool jazz funk kind of stuff. And I like Luis Bonifay is a really good Brazilian musician that I love. Writes some pretty ballads. I also I'm a sucker for ballads. I really like some pretty music, especially like in the fall, walking around looking at pretty girls. So we're listening to something that's smoky. I go for the vibes, but for playing, I really like playing hard bop and really digging in. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell me the story about your first gig and how you were feeling when you found out you were doing this gig?
Right. My first ever paid gig for jazz would have been my freshman year, and this was like right as we were coming out of COVID, so it was really awkward. And I had only been playing in a combo for a year, so I did not know what I was doing. But it was a really great opportunity that I got from a friend to play, and I also got to play with one of my best buddies who I gigged a lot with in Lubbock, named Isaac Sanchez. He's a bass player, and we ended up gigging. I mean, we must play 100 gigs in Lubbock over the couple years that I was down there. Trying to remember what I was thinking, but I know I was giddy and super nervous because I was playing with some people who were frankly out of my league, and I just didn't know how to hold down a chart. I had barely ever jammed before. The combo stuff we played, we had rehearsed a lot, so it was a lot more like coming out of more of a classical mindset where I was used to playing within the strictures of this, and then having to jump into a 3-hour gig and really fill out some time and improvise in front of people and just losing track of form everywhere. It was pretty crazy. I was super nervous. I can't remember the name of that bar, but I think it closed down. I don't know. Yeah. Luckily, I got called back somehow, and eventually started figuring out how to follow form and improvise and hang with some people. Yeah.
I see. That's awesome. Yeah. What was the coolest gig you have ever been a part of?
Oh man, coolest gig? Honestly, I haven't played very super cool gigs. But I did play a really funny gig one time. One time, a fraternity in Lubbock decided they were gonna have a casino night when they hired a jazz band, and I ended up seeing a bunch of my old high school friends that were in a fraternity. It was really weird, and they built a little stage for us. I was like, wow, we're playing jazz for a bunch of, and then I don't think I even ended up playing poker. They just listened to jazz the whole night.
Yeah.
And you'll never believe how much people like jazz whenever they're drunk. I don't know what it is, but one guy there was like, man, I'm going to call my parents. I am so upset that they have never shown me jazz before. What were they thinking? I was like, yeah, man, you tell them. So I gave him a playlist and sent him on his way. I hope he's still listening.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. How do you prepare for a gig when you have very limited rehearsal time?
Oh man. Listen. For me, I've got to, if it's between looking at a chart for 2 minutes and listening to a record for 2 minutes, I'd much rather listen to it. And when putting together like I've okay. Another story I had was my sophomore year of college. Got called for a gig, 3 hour gig that weekend with a full set list, and I didn't know any of the tunes. So I sat down for like 5 hours and wrote down charts, and I couldn't even find good charts because I didn't have iReal Pro or anything.
Yeah.
It definitely listening is key because that's where all your ideas come from. That's where the feel comes from. There's so much in jazz music that isn't written down. Even if you find a really good chart, you just can't convey all the little nuances. You can't. You gather so much more information just by listening to a piece once through than by digging up a little chart and pretending that you know the chords.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I've got to play a gig, and I haven't been keeping up my chops, I'd much rather listen to jazz for the whole afternoon than try to pretend that I can come up with something. It really all boils down to listening.
I see. Yeah. Why do you think networking is such an important part about gigging?
I mean, it's kind of the whole thing. I can't say I'm a very great networker, but once again in Lubbock, we had set up jazz jam. Me and that same bass buddy, we had a little house, and we managed to scoot out just enough space to set up some drums, and it was super packed and nasty in there. But we managed to make some friends, and we started a weekly little jam thing. And before we knew it, we kind of cultivated a community of musicians that were willing to just hang out and play music. And we didn't. I think maybe there was an inkling of an idea that we could use that as a platform to jump into getting gigs. But to start with, it was just like, for the sake of it, we just really loved playing this music, and we wanted to have more opportunities to chat with people and get to interact with people. And honestly, like a lot of my favorite moments of getting to play with people have been in jam sessions as opposed to gigs, because when you're playing a gig in front of a restaurant or something, you're not trying to disturb people's time. You're just jamming. But when we at a certain point we upgraded to a slightly larger house, and we managed to get like sometimes 20 cats out, and we'd have like a bunch of different people coming out and just soloing over one tune. We'd even do like almost like a collective improvisation where a bunch of people would just go crazy, and some big drawn out jams. And for me, that was how I networked in Lubbock, was by jamming with people and being friendly with people, and in the university system. But and then I started to make some friends with some of the grad students, some of the cats that had been in town that had connections to venues. And then I started getting paid. But there was a long time where I was just networking for the sake of finding some musicians who I really wanted to play with. I think that's an underrated aspect of networking, is getting to know musicians and getting to know what it feels like to play with other musicians, and getting to find people that you really jive with. But then yeah, the whole networking, like trying to go find restaurants and shake hands with managers, and that's an absolutely crucial skill, and one that every jazz musician who wants to actually make any amount of money has to do. And the thing I'm learning right now, skill I'm working on right now, is being able to advocate for myself and bargain with people, because there's a lot of venues that will like to try to pay you less than you're worth. Or, for example, Pocket Break played a gig recently that was initially supposed to be an hour, and so we agreed on a certain amount of money, but then after a few weeks we had to talk to a different person, another person. By the end of it, we ended up playing 30 minutes at the beginning of an event that was 3 hours long, and then 30 minutes at the end of the day. And I mean, we loved playing, but for me, honestly, I would have rather been playing for 3 hours than having to sit there for 3 hours. And the thing is, you have to learn that as a musician, you've put in a lot of time. You're a professional. You need to be able to talk to people and tell them, I'm worth this much money. If you can't pay me like this, then I'm not going to click for you. And if something has to change, then we need to agree on that mutually and be able to talk about it. I'm not a very good confrontational person, but that's the next step for me.
I see, yeah. Awesome, yeah. When you're improvising, what exactly is going through your mind?
Right. There's a lot of listening, a lot of exchanging ideas, but a lot of it too is a lot of the thinking is done before I perform. My professor in Lubbock, Dr. Hoagland, I mentioned, he always told me we want to do like all of our hard work in the practice room. We're going to do reps and reps of very focused, intense work in the practice room with intentional breaks so that we could stay sharp. And then when it's time to perform, we'd forget all about it. Just wipe it away. Wipe it clean. Does this little Miyagi move. And I think I definitely still abide by that. I think when I'm in a practice room, I'm paying a lot of attention. I'm transcribing something perhaps, or I have an idea in my head that I'm trying to vocalize and then figure out okay, fingering, work it up to tempo, plug it into a tune, run it through reps, do that sort of very focused practice so that when it comes to getting to play with other musicians, hopefully I don't have to, unless somebody trips up the form or something, fingers crossed, I can close my eyes and really go into a space where I don't have to be concerned with trying to be clever or having to think really, am I going to make this too fast? Oh man, I missed this. Or oh man, I'm gonna mess up the rhythm or I'm getting off with it. I just want to be able to tune into something, some sort of feeling, and be able to express myself. So, and honestly, in the performances and the jams that I've enjoyed the most, it's almost like a state of zen. They're just completely gone. You can kind of I try to work myself up to a point where I'm hearing something in my head, and then it's just immediately coming out through the instrument.
I see that.
There's almost no conscious cognitive processing happening. It's just, this is what needs to happen, and it's just coming through me.
I see. That's awesome, yeah. Why do you think jazz and people's emotions have such a close connection to each other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because of the improvisational aspect of jazz, it's a living tradition, and it's been infused with the souls of all the musicians who've come before us. So much artistry has been honed into this very specific craft that inherently, you think about the blues and all the deep, rich history, coming out of the Deep South, being such an integral part of Black culture. I can't even pretend to know what any of that's like, but when you hear it, you can feel it. And I think that since musicians who tap into their emotions in a very immediate way, as opposed to classical music where it's all foreplanned, forethought. thought out and written down, and then somebody else is interpreting it. It's me. I'm the musician. I'm the artist. I'm the vessel. I'm everything at once, and I'm channeling this whole tradition that's coming through, and so it's just live. It's a much more visceral, immediate expression of the musicians and their ideas and their emotions. And I think that especially whenever you listen to live jazz, although even with a really good recording, you can get a hint of it too, but you can sense so much of what's happening in that person's soul, because it's being shaped by everything that they are, and it's just coming out through them. It's not something that somebody else told them that they should play like that.
I see. Yeah. What is one of your favorite memories relating to jazz?
That's tough. Definitely some of those jams I had in Lubbock where I was making friends and getting to share these ideas with like-minded individuals, and getting to bond with them in that immediate way that I'm describing. I really think only a pure improvisational style like jazz can really withstand. Some of those jams we really were so connected to each other that I still feel really close to those people. Yeah,
I see. Yeah. What has been the best crowd you have ever performed for?
Oh yeah, that frat party. I don't know what it is about drunk frat kids, but they really ate it up. I don't know. And I think that says something about because I played for a lot of really a lot of bad crowds. We're up there killing it, and people like cough in between, like don't even make eye contact with us. And I think there's a disconnect between because we're not used to having to look at people in such a raw, unfiltered kind of a way. I think it's really easy, especially if you're like, you're just trying to eat dinner. I get it. Yeah. But the reason that that jazz has been on the decline for a couple decades, I think is definitely tied to something in our culture where we're less comfortable with being emotionally intimate with strangers, and I think too, there's back in the day, a lot of people would have grown up with a lot of the standards that jazz musicians today are still playing. The interesting thing is like I don't know, like Autumn Leaves or Misty. Like I played those for my great grandparents, and they went, "Oh yeah, I know this tune." Yeah. And they're not jazz musicians, but back then that was the popular music and the jazz music. They were so closely, that those two musical traditions and styles were so closely interlinked that there was a lot more familiarity, and I think that helped people who wanted to, even bebop musicians who wanted to head into more of an avant-garde kind of stint. They were able to connect with those audiences more readily because people had that familiarity with pop music. And I think now there's more of a disconnect. You can still hear some jazz influence in like R&B music. I think like Tyler the Creator, Daniel Caesar, especially that kind of like modern neo soul definitely incorporates some of it. But in terms of like the swing style, the rhythms of jazz, the really complex harmonic structures and song format, especially if you're hearing like a saxophone played at, it's a lot harder to connect to it immediately than if you were to hear like an instrumental cover of like I don't know, what's a pop song? of like Wicked or something. You know, like people will hear it. They'll hear a string quartet play an arrangement of something like that, and they'll go, "Oh my God, that was the most beautiful thing." And it's a shame, and I think it's cool that whenever jazz musicians are able to play some like more modern standards like Stevie Wonder, some funk stuff, some things that people already have some in their ears, and that's part of why we managed to connect to those that fraternity party. I think is because we started off with like Superstition or something, and they were like, "Yeah, this is funky," and then we went into like some real crazy jazz, and they were like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize there's a person here, and they're like actually coming up with this stuff." And when you engage with somebody like, and just give them the opportunity to see it up close and personal, then their eyes light up. They just realize this is such a unique art form. So that was definitely a cool crowd to play for. Some frat kids.
Well, we're talking about live music in general, but why do you think it's so important to listen to live jazz when you have the opportunity to?
Right. It changes something in the way that you engage with the music immediately. Like the first time, oh man. I wish I could point to a first time for me that I remember hearing jazz music live, but unfortunately it's more of a slow process for me. But hearing a record and hearing a live musician that you can see and you can feel the vibrations of the drums pounding and the horns blasting, and just noticing on their facial expression that they're like actually pouring themselves into this music. I think if you engage with honestly, every time I engage with a live musician who's really about it, I'm like still blown away. It's a really cool feeling, and especially if you're interested in jazz, if you're a young musician, you don't really understand what it's like until you're there up close and personal, because it's just a very different thing. Even like big band or like taking lessons, these are very different from being in a live performance setting where people are really engaging with the audience. People are, the musicians are really locked in and communicating with each other and sharing ideas. It's so much more engaging that you just can't even believe. Like if you've only heard elevator jazz, you'll never believe that you're listening to something that's still called jazz when you go see it live.
Well, we're talking about live music a little bit, and of course you're part of a band called Pocket Break. So feel free to tell the audience a little bit what it's about, like what y'all do, how it started, and your role in Pocket Break.
Right. It's kind of fun because so Pocket Break is a jazz group that me and a couple buddies started. David Romo plays bass. Ethan Spears plays drums. We've got a really killer singer. Her name is Heaven Watts. And then David Romo's old brother, Jeremiah, plays guitar. And it's kind of fun because I knew David and Ethan from a mutual contact, Travis. I don't remember his last name. That I went to high school with. And we played Bohemian Rhapsody in an airport, or in an air hangar, like an air hangar. There used to be a music venue back in high school. And I didn't see him for years because I went to Lubbock. And then came back. I transferred here to finish my bachelor's. And I ran into David at an orchestra rehearsal. And he was like, "Hey, you're Bret, right? You play piano? I haven't seen you in years." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you recognize." Like, I didn't recognize him. And so it was really cool catching up with him. He's a really cool guy. Ethan's a really cool guy. And we started rehearsing last winter put out some demos and started getting some pretty consistent gigs in the summer. And we wanted to do real, just classic swinging standards and stuff. And I think we're really doing a good job of staying true to that tradition. And at the same time, all of us really love funk and soul, Motown, R&B. So we have a jazz set that we play for dinners, and then we have a funky R&B set that we play for later in the night when people. Yeah, it's really great playing with musicians who are able to toe the line between those two, because there's so much confluence between those two traditions and their styles and the rhythms and just the nuances of being able to improvise with people like that, real musicians, and then to be able to turn around and play something funky is really super fun. And like I said, Heaven's a really great musician. She has a wonderful voice. One of the best jazz vocalists I've gotten to perform with. And so we try to be able to appeal to people who may be much as familiar with jazz, plus the easier standards, oddities, and 5 minute the movement stuff. But then we also we'll break into Spain, Chick Corea for an instrumental break. And we're putting together a Christmas set. We're gonna play at the Botanical Gardens. I believe it's the 5th and the 12th.
I see.
So check out our Instagram.
Yeah.
You can find more details about that. But it's a really great group. A lot of fun to play with those guys. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see where I'll go in the future. Yeah, it's really exciting to see. What is the best advice you have gotten relating to music or just jazz?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. Well, I've gotten a lot of really good advice from mentors. I really appreciated that advice that I shared earlier about being able to kind of let go of some of the technical aspects that jazz is maybe known for and just be able to express yourself. For me, that was really transformative. Another one was with comping, being able to support, and the idea that in an ensemble where everybody's improvising, everybody's idea is worth making sound as good as possible. So we're all communicating, working together. I really appreciated that advice. And then I also got some really great advice I wasn't even framed as advice. It was just an interesting conversation I had with a friend about rhythm. Friend Tristan Knock, who's a drummer down in Lubbock, he talked about how he felt that drums are a very grounding, like rooted sort of instrument. And we had this interesting conversation about how in orchestral music and classical music, a lot of it is more the rhythm is visual, right? You're watching somebody wave a wand in front of you, and you're trying to pretend that there's there. Anyways, it's a much more floaty thing, and that really works for string instruments. And it's got a really, there's so much nuance and rubato that you can do with that style of music, and I think that's really cool. But with jazz and R&B and anything that's rooted in like the African rhythms that are a foundation for jazz, it's a much more rooted, steady tempo, first of all, for swing, but also the beat doesn't come from from your visual brain. Like you're not trying to process something up here. You really want to be able to feel it. And ever since then, I've noticed that I get kind of a feeling in my gut, like I'm dancing or and really trying to focus on being able to feel the beat in my body as opposed to in my head, so that my head is able to think about some other things.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting lesson for young musicians to learn, that the differences in the way that classical music thinks about rhythm and jazz music thinks about rhythm. And also, I think it also says a lot about the tradition as a whole, the culture in which jazz came from, that it's a much more embodied, physical, grounded kind of music. Anyways, that's kind of a diatribe that I like to go on.
Very good,
It's interesting.
That's awesome, yeah. Well, as we're getting close to the end of the show, I have one more question for you, and that would be, what advice do you have for up-and-coming jazz musicians?
Oh, yeah. This reminds me of the last piece of advice that actually is definitely the best advice, which is to listen. Everything is about listening. You've got to listen to music. You've got to love music. Find music that you love and listen to it. And then you'll want to listen to more music. And especially with jazz, because it comes from an oral tradition, because so much of it is tied up in the history of recorded music. It's not something that you can just learn from reading a book or sitting down with some sheet music. And it's not something, even if you have a really good teacher, you still want to listen to as much of a breadth of music as possible, because there's so much to learn that has never been written down. It could never be written down, because that's what it is. It's a completely oral art form. So listen hours and hours a day, and eventually you can't go wrong.
Awesome, yeah. Well, this next little segment I like to give to all my special guests is just a moment to shout out anything, shout out anything going on, shout out anyone that you feel like deserves a shout out. So take it away.
Yeah. Pocket Break. Come check out our Instagram and Facebook. I think we've got some gigs at the Botanical Gardens. Starting next year, calendar year, we should be working on some gigs at Drunken Oyster, and I play with David Romero and Ethan Spears in Austin, Brazil at the 806. We do a jazz jam every second Sunday of the month at the 806 Coffee Lounge. That is a great opportunity to listen to music, listen to live music, get to talk to some people, get to experience. You can come up, even if you think that you're not good enough to read through a chart, come up and jam through a chart with us. It's fine. That's where you have to be able to stumble before you can make good music, and we're all super supportive. Especially Austin's a great guy. Love you, Austin. Thanks for giving us a lot of gigs. Love all my guys in Pocket Break. That's my shout out.
Awesome, perfect. And the last thing is, I like to ask all my guests to add one song to be added on the playlist forever. What song would you like to recommend today?
Yeah, I've got a great tune. It's called Time Will Tell. It's written by Bobby Watson and performed by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Bret, for coming on to Jazzy Fridays. It was an honor having you. Of course, now all that's left is taking a Polaroid picture, which you can catch on our Instagram. So make sure to check out the Instagram to see behind the scenes, and of course, see what pose Bret shows. But like I said, thank you once again, Bret, for coming on to the show and being our very special guest today. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll catch you all in a little bit. We'll see you soon.